This is the magicwordpodcast.com.
Hello, this is Scott Wells for the magicwordpodcast.com. And this week we have another great episode for you of someone from Costa Rica, actually. And speaking of people from around the world, I know people listen from Argentina to Zaire, everywhere around the world, and I thank all of you listeners for tuning in. And a matter of fact, I just recently got an email from Hector Ruiz, and he said, I hope this email finds you well. I'm emailing you just to thank you for your amazing podcast full of knowledge, fun, and entertainment. I'm currently performing on board the Royal Caribbean Symphony of the Seas. Every week I fly from Spain, where I reside, to Italy to join the ship for a couple nights and do my show. As soon as I check in, off I go to Cinque Terre, which is in Italy, to hike in the mountains while listening to your podcast and while enjoying the view. It's the most amazing combination, listening to incredible professionals in the field while enjoying nature. Thank you very much for the great content you create and for the world to enjoy. Have an amazing day, Hector. Well, thank you, Hector. That makes my heart sing. I appreciate hearing from listeners, and not just that you do listen, but how you listen and where you are when you're listening, whether you're on a hike, whether you're at the gym, whether you're on your commute each day, whatever you're doing and however you're listening. I'm always interested in hearing from you, and I'd like to give you a little shout out then also. If you'd like to leave something over on SpeakPipe, that's the best way perhaps to leave a recorded message, and I can play that back over on the podcast as well. Or if you want to send an email, please do that as well. First of all, you can leave the message on SpeakPipe by going to themagicwordpodcast.com, and there's a little icon there that you can click. You don't have to download an app or anything, and basically just leave like a 90-second message. Or you can send an email to me. That's scott@themagicwordpodcast.com. I'd love to hear from you the way that you hear from me. Well, this week, as I said, we've got a guest actually from Costa Rica, and his name is Diego Vargas. And when I was recently at the Magic Collectors Expo in Cleveland, Ohio, I had noticed Diego hanging out with some of the big boys, Lance Burton and Mike Caveney and some of the others, and et cetera. And then later saw him perform during the conference then as well. And Mike said, you need to talk to this guy. He'd make for a good episode. And in particular, he is involved with Magicians Without Borders. And this is a very good organization, one which I hope that you might consider. If you've got some financial wherewithal that you can make a donation, they would certainly appreciate it. And the link is on the podcast website, where you can find out more information about Magicians Without Borders. But the kinds of emotion that you will feel that he is going to convey in this episode is just powerful. It's palpable. It's something that I know will speak to your heart as it did mine. I'm so glad. So I thank Mike very much for the recommendation of talking with Diego about all of this. Wonderful gentleman, wonderful magician, performs the Magic Castle quite regularly, is very adept, that's skilled at sleight of hand, and also sleight of tongue. He is very good speaker. Even though that English is not his first language, it is one that he thinks in all the time, thinks in English. We talk about that then too. In fact, I'm going to step out of the way and let you hear what he has to say this week. Please welcome my guest, Mr. Diego Vargas, here on The Magic Word. Today we have a guest from Costa Rica who is a magician and is in the United States. And right now, as we are speaking, we are actually in Cleveland, Ohio. And he is a collector, I believe, as well, a magic collector, but mainly a close-up performer and stand-up, I'd say kind of a comedy magician. I saw him perform for the first time today. I've not had the opportunity to talk with you, but Mike Caveney had said, you need to talk to this guy. I saw you having lunch with him a couple days ago. And I know you said you're having breakfast with Lance Burton tomorrow morning. So anyhow, I thought this was amazing. But whenever he was performing today and I saw him, he was talking about Magicians Without Borders. And that's really something I want to explore, because I think that is a fascinating thing and a very important thing, because as magicians that we show our love for the art and also for humanity in general by the good things we do for other people. And I could tell with the passion that you were talking about today that you do have genuine good feelings for people in your heart. I mean, the way that you do this. So anyhow, here's my guest then today, Diego Vargas. Hello, Diego.
Hey, hola. My pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, I'm passionate for magic.
Yes.
Collecting, magic history, but people mostly, 100%.
And so you're from Costa Rica, and so where in Costa Rica approximately?
So I live in the center of the city, but I am from a rural area on the outsides of the capital, the outsides of San Jose, and I moved 10 years ago to San Jose.
Okay. And do you get up to the United States here very often then? Or?
Well, I've been performing at the castle, I would say regularly for the past 2 years.
In the close-up room, I guess, mainly?
Parlor.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, I do the parlor because I'm more a comedy magician. Yes, I think
that's kind of what I felt when I saw you today. I thought, it'd be great.
Well, I'm glad that you felt that because that's how I feel comfortable being described. But I will, if I have to do the close-up, I'll do it 100%.
Well, I was in the front row, and you were doing some great palming and some stuff you were doing with the cards. I mean, the way you're doing some of your card work, I thought, well, this guy's got to be doing something in a close-up room. I mean, I've worked the gallery.
I love close-up gallery.
Yeah.
I mean, I love close-up magic in general.
Yeah.
But I think I'm more funny in the parlor.
Yeah. Do you kind of make fun a little bit of your accent or of translation? In other words, that you might say something kind of funny, and then say, "Oh, I didn't know it translates." I've seen some magicians do that. They're kind of
that's something that I realized. It was funny. So I think things that are relatable are funnier, and sometimes I do struggle with some words, and so I can make them funny. I've seen that.
You know what I'm talking about.
100%. But I realized that till I came here to perform more often in the U.S. Yes.
Now, when you perform, it's not just the castle, or are there other places you're doing some corporate work?
I've doing corporate work here in U.S. First show I did in U.S. I was hired by the Yale University to do a show on social for magic as a tool for social justice, of talking about Magicians Without Borders, and I did a show. They have something called College Tea. So they bring, they call personalities from all over the world to talk about subjects, and I went to talk about my work with Magicians Without Borders, and I also perform a show. Yeah.
And when you are also in learning English, obviously your English is perfect with just a little bit of an accent. But did you learn that, I guess, in Costa Rica, or did you come into the U.S.?
Well, this is a fun fact. I'm a native English speaker.
Okay.
I don't remember learning English. I learned English. My mom taught me English when I was a little baby. So of course I'm not as fluent as I'm in Spanish because I don't talk it. I don't speak it that much. But I do have a couple of advantages. One is I do think in English, and I do think in Spanish. So I'm not translating while I'm talking.
Right.
But sometimes a joke comes into my head and I am lacking words in English. That
happens.
I'm here saying I'm a native English speaker. I'm here lacking a lot of basic words. But but I do remember when I was 18 years old, I worked in a call center. Taking phone calls from US. And in that moment of life, I'll be speaking English 7 hours a day. And I remember I will be lacking words in Spanish. So I was in Costa Rica. And I will forget some Spanish words because
that's funny.
Because I will be 7 hours a day speaking English. In the call center,
So when you would go back to Costa Rica from America, where people are speaking English, that's what you're speaking primarily. You go down and you almost forget Spanish. That's kind of funny.
Well, and but thanks to my mom, and I will be always thankful with my mom. I mean, for everything, but especially for this. She's the one that gave me the English, and without that, I wouldn't be able to do comedy in English. I don't know if you saw it today, but I do improvise comedy in English.
Yes. Well, the way you were talking about different things that were happening around us. I mean, you were listening to the birds there and different things that you were saying. So,
I like to do magic that I have it kind of autopilot, so I can be with the people and not thinking on the magic.
Right.
So that's I think people like when the performer is present. So I really like to be very, very present. If you are, the more present you are, the funnier you can be. I think, or more natural.
That's a very good point. I have said that for such a long time that your magic should be secondary. In other words, whenever you're going to be practicing, you should practice so you don't have to worry about the move that you're doing because that comes second nature. You're focused on the audience, not on the move. Oh, did I do that right? Or which, by the way, I was just at the 4F convention, and there was a gentleman there who was lecturing and talking about the importance of practicing, but he said you can practice wrong. In other words, if you're practicing and not seeing what you're doing, or if you're doing it, while you're watching TV or whatever, you may be practicing it wrong and you don't know it, so you actually perform it wrong. So you should concentrate and focus on your practice.
Yeah. There's a phrase. I'll try to translate it, but there's a phrase that says something like,
Well, say it in Spanish first.
Says something like, no hay peor cosa que ponerse un objetivo erróneo y luego cumplirlo. The translation would be, there's not worse thing that putting yourself the wrong objective and then accomplish it.
Oh, that makes it exactly what I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's totally.
Right. Going back for just a minute, I had recently spoken with Artem Shukin from Russia, and he's still translating English to Russian and then Russian back to English when he was talking.
It's super tiring.
It would be very tiring because I speak fast, and so whenever I was talking with him, there was a time in which he was saying, okay, I didn't understand a thing you said. Can you say that again a little slower?
Yeah.
But you don't have to worry about that.
I mean, I do need to put a little more effort speaking English than in Spanish, but I'm lucky enough that at least to be able to think in English is already a good thing because I don't have to be... I mean, the thing with comedy is sometimes you have to be fast. And sometimes... if I have to translate something, if I have to come up with a joke in Spanish, translate it to English, find the words, that it's already late. That's
right.
It's not going to be funny.
But comedy is important to improvise as you can on the moment. It does make it more personal as opposed to just something that you're just reading from a script in your mind or whatever.
I think people go back home. I just did a run in the biggest theater in Costa Rica 3 nights, and it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And one of the things I like the most is that when people say to me, "Hey, I want to see your show at the theater," and I ask, "Which day?" They don't say Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They say, "I was the day that this happened." Because the comedy is different every night. I
love that.
Yeah. So what you want is, and this is something I was talking with Mike Haveney about this, and Mike told me, yeah, well, what you want is people going back home telling other people, you should be there the day I was there.
Yeah.
Because the day I was there, this happened. Yeah. And I 100% agree. And I really tried to make it. So I did 9 shows today. And I can say all of them were very different. Different jokes.
Yeah.
Tricks could be the same, but they can be perceived different if the comedy is adapted.
That reminds me of a joke. It seems like Max Maven had said this. I think actually it's just a joke about entertainment, not necessarily magicians in general, in which there was backstage that after the end of the last show and the last evening, there was a lady who had come in and said, I saw your show yesterday, and I saw your show yesterday, and I just thought it was fantastic, best thing I've ever seen. I want to have your baby. I mean, I just want to make love to you. I just think I want to spend the rest of my life with you. You're the most amazing person I've ever seen. And so the question was, which show did you see?
Yeah,
it's not so much, hey, I'd like to, let's go out on a date or whatever, but it's more like, because each of the shows are different. So which show did you see? In other words, I want to repeat whatever I did, obviously, for so other people will enjoy it as much as you did,
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And so is comedy different in Costa Rica or in other Spanish-speaking countries than it is in America? Do you have to change it? Yeah.
Yeah, very much.
In what way and how?
It's very different, but I will say the good thing is we get a lot of U.S. television. Yeah. So I can do comedy in U.S., but I will say
so there'll be pop references, I guess,
yes.
pop culture.
Yeah,
references.
and you, for example, I've laughed a lot with Michael Scott and Barney Stinson and Joey Tribbiani and Chandler, all these characters.
Yeah.
So I've seen them. I have heard them making jokes. So I can. I'm probably U.S. comedy has shaped me a lot because we do receive a lot of U.S. comedy. But for example, Argentina, I think is different.
Yeah.
England, I think is different.
Yes.
And one thing that does happen in Latin America is that the words change a lot. So when I have to perform in a different country than Costa Rica, I have to ask for the correct words because there's words that are this is real. There's words that are a fruit in a country and a really bad word in the next country.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah, so whenever I'm performing in a different place in Latin America, what I do is I'll write to my peers, magicians, to my fellow magicians in that country, and I say, this is what I need, this is what I want to accomplish. Which word will you say? And then I go changing them.
I remember years ago, Chevy had a car out called Nova, which sold very well in the United States, but in Latin countries, it didn't sell. And the reason was Nova means no go.
Oh, yeah, it's true. That's true. Look at that. Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't want to buy a car that's not going to go.
Yeah, no. Can you tell me those cars that doesn't go? Yeah, I want 3.
So they
how many cars do I need of those so they can go?
And I think fresca was another word.
Fresca is in Costa Rica. Well, in Spanish, is like fresh.
It's
So
fresh.
good. Yeah,
okay, it is good. Maybe it's another language. Because I thought
Could be.
there was something that meant lesbian or something.
Wow. Well, it's not
It
fresca.
had a completely different. Maybe it wasn't fresca.
But wait. Could be in one country of Latin America that I'm not aware.
Like maybe it's something similar, like fresia or something.
Could be the exact word.
I
could
see.
Because as I told you, a fruit in Costa Rica is a terrible word in other countries. So fresca
It's still
could be
Spanish,
a bad word.
So, but the Spanish interpretation is different in those different countries.
It's super different. Spanish,
interesting.
yeah. The thing is, if you get a guy from, for example, I have a friends, let's say from Chile, from Argentina, and we get in Magic Life in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So there we're talking, let's say international Spanish. Let's put it in some way, because I am not with a bunch of Costa Ricans, and the guy from Chile is not with a bunch of guys from Chile. The thing is, when you are in Chile, because they start talking to each other in the Chilean words, and then you go like, is this really Spanish? What? I supposed to be understanding this. So I don't know if this happens in states, in different states of U.S., that they have different words.
Well, no, I think that pretty much from coast to coast and border to border, the words are the same. But
Australia, for example, they have different English.
That's true. That's
Very
true.
different.
But they have different senses of humor. I mean, I've heard this across the United States, where that in certain states, the same joke wouldn't be as appreciated. I know, like in certain areas, let's say in the Bible Belt, that some jokes won't go over, whereas they might go over in places outside of that. And what I'm saying is that some places are more conservative, some places are more liberal, and so you kind of have to know your audience, I guess.
100%. Yeah, 100%. That's the reason I try to do comedy first, not that is hitting someone is not about someone, is more about moments and
observations of the culture, maybe, or the times.
I wouldn't say the culture. I wouldn't go there, but I observations of what's going on in the show, because the thing is, when a show starts, the tricks could be the same, but this is the one show you're doing. Every show is unique.
Yeah.
So the more you acknowledge that, the more you make each show unique, and you make people feel like it is unique, then those funny moments are just for those people. I mean, it's like inside jokes. You can create So, for example, I don't remember which show you were, but for example, today in one of the shows, I did a joke on printing a guy's Chris Angels in his shirt.
That was not
and
on
the masked magician.
Okay.
So I just ran into the guy. He was coming out from the bathroom, and he said to me, "The masked magician shirt." And I'm like, "Hey, now we have an inside joke," and that only happened in that show.
Yes.
So when you get to do that, people said, "This is my thing. This is my show," and they appreciate it.
Yeah, take advantage of the moment, certainly.
Yep.
But I just think that things would change also within the United States, and I'm sure it's the same way in Costa Rica and other Latin-speaking countries, where there are words that were acceptable before that are not now. For an example, I've heard so many comedians that can't do certain things at college. They can't go on the college circuit.
Yeah. So I'm a corporate magician. So my show is, and I put it in the foot of my emails. There's no one word. There's no one line that will create any kind of anything.
No offense.
Yeah. So I think if you can do that, well, but I will say something. U.S. is especially different. U.S. is you have to be way more precocious. I think in all of the other countries I've performed, there's more permissions. I do have to say that in U.S. I do feel there's more. It's a little more tense. So I take way more precautions. Yeah.
So you will err to the side of caution, I guess, and leave some things out in the U.S. that you would use in other countries.
Because in other countries are not a thing. That's the thing.
Yeah.
In other countries, a lot of things are not
offensive.
No.
Yeah.
Like not at all.
Well, but there are things here that you may have been doing for a long time, and then the next day, almost quite literally, it's no longer acceptable. It's like, you shouldn't be talking like that or say that word. It's like, I didn't know that was a bad word.
My recommendation is just try not to say anything that is offensive.
But how do you know?
Correct. Yeah. No, and here's the other thing. Anything can be offensive. I mean, anything.
Well, that's true.
If I do a joke about an apple, someone can say, "Hey, my grandpa used to grow apples."
Yeah.
And this is super offensive for my family. Well,
yeah.
But that's there's a moment where I just think, well, that's a little on you, and I cannot do anything for you in that case.
Well, that's right. You know, everybody's going to be offended sometime, somewhere, if they go into it with that kind of an attitude, thinking, oh, well, I've heard this guy is offensive and I want to hear it myself.
I think, and this is something Juan Tamaris says, when I go on stage, I really want people to feel I want to be there. And I want to be there to make them happy, not to offend them, to say something that is going to be bad. So the first thing I do when I go on stage is I try to become their friend, which is something I actually like in life. I actually like in real life. So when people likes you, then you have 70% of the show.
That's true.
Won. Then you have to do good magic.
And right from the very start, also, the best thing is try to get them on your side. If they like you, they're going to like everything else you do. But that's the thing, like if you happen to put somebody down or you say something offensive or you have a heckler and you put that person down in a bad way, the whole audience turns against you. So you have to keep people on your side and be friendly.
You have to put the people against the heckler, not
That's
against
the
you.
Point. That's right. Until they say this guy should get out of here or something.
Kind of.
But do they have any hecklers more? Would you say in Costa Rica than they do here, or?
So U.S. has a very good thing. I will say I love U.S. audiences because there's a show culture here. U.S. has a show culture. Yeah. So when you tell to people in U.S., a lot of people in U.S., because you can never talk in general, but I do feel that most of the people in U.S., when you say, hey, there's a show, people in U.S. go, oh, yay, there's a show. And they're already happy. Yeah. In Latin America, you say, hey, there's a show. And people say, let's see if you're any good. So that's now prove it. So that's something I really like about US because as you guys grow seeing shows, then you have a show culture. So there's more hecklers in Latin America, 100%.
That's interesting because when people pay for a ticket here, they're expecting to see something good. They're not paying to see something that proves their points. Like this guy's bad, he better be good.
Correct.
It's the opposite way of looking at things.
But also like in the corporate world in US, when you go to do a show, people didn't pay a ticket, but they still are having a good time. We're going to see a show.
Right.
In Latin America, which country is also super great to perform? Colombia. Colombians are the same. Okay. We're gonna see Diego. We don't know who Diego is, but yay, Diego. Because that's very Colombian. Could be in other countries, but
Brazil.
I've never performed in Brazil, but could be. I've seen it in Colombia, but I think the U.S. Audience is very. I would say is more educated in the show business. So I will say appreciate it more. But we're working on it. Yeah.
So your preferred audience, you like to work more in the U.S. than elsewhere, or you would think about moving here full time?
I haven't think about that. So I really like Costa Rica.
That's your home.
My grandma is there. My grandma is hilarious. It's hard to beat
right?
the girl is. Yeah, my grandma is super funny. It's hard to beat my grandma.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So does she give you some material sometimes? You kind of tell jokes about, oh, my grandma told me this, which is kind of funny, I think.
I've never think about it. The thing is, my grandma is mean. She does jokes that I cannot tell in the stage. That's the thing. But she's hilarious. I don't think I have a favorite audience. I think any audience I can perform, that's going to be my favorite audience.
Yeah.
I say it from the heart.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at things. Every audience is your favorite audience. Yeah.
Because the thing is, when I was a kid, I really wanted to become a magician. If I was a kid, and someone come to me and they say, "Hey, Diego, you're going to become a magician.
Yeah.
Which audience do you want?" I'll say, hey, "Give me anyone. I just want to be a magician."
Sure. Yeah, put me
I don't
out there.
care. Yeah, put me out there. Yeah. I'll do it.
But you naturally gravitated more towards the parlor and stand-up as opposed to stage. And I was going to say, so the big illusions and things never really impressed you? I mean, I'm sure you admired them, but you didn't want to be an illusionist.
Well, I did a levitation. I also play guitar, so I did a levitation playing guitar, which was a Tina Leonard idea. It went beautiful, I think. And I do like illusions. The thing is, in Costa Rica, I do in theater. In a theater, I do one show a year.
Okay.
So I do once a year. So in the corporate shows, I normally don't have all the setup for illusions, but I really like them, and I'm actually I actually worked with Bill Smith for the last year illusion. I did for the levitation. I think I wanna do a different one this year, but let's see. I love magic in general. The one magic I don't like is the one that is not funny. But for me, I love seeing
mentalism.
Could be, but mentalism can be funny as well.
Usually, it's pretty
most
serious.
of the time is not. That is true. But when I say my favorite kind of magic is for me to perform, for me to see, I like to see any kind of magic. For me to perform, the one, do you know which magic I don't like that much to perform? I don't see myself as a dove guy or animals, but I love seeing dove acts. I love Alex Boy's act is amazing.
Alex is great.
Yeah, Alex is great. I love Lance Burton. So I love seeing dove acts, but I will never see myself doing it.
I was just talking with someone at dinner this evening about whether animals acts in general, about particularly in the U.S., again, going back to the fact that it seems like there are more and more things that you can't do, and one of them is working with animals. Of course, they got rid of the circuses a long time ago because of elephants, and then I don't know anyone who's really working with lions and tigers. I mean, it used to be, of course, Siegfried and Roy, but that's a long time ago. Then they had, after the that incident with Roy, but also I know Rick Thomas and Gary Carson, and so many people have worked with them, but have no longer do that. So there are not really any magicians I know who are working with big cats, and for that matter, not a lot who are even working with doves, because I think of animal rights activists who are saying we don't think you should be working with any kind of animals.
Well, but this is long. This has been happening for a long time ago. There's a letter. Who was the? Was it Carter? I don't remember. Well, this is in one of Mike's books. And there's a letter from the house. What was the name of this? It's like kind of like the Parliament from England, and they sent a letter. To this is a fun story. They sent a letter to this magician. I'm forgetting the name of the magician. I'm sorry, Mike.
Was he in the US or the UK?
UK. I think could be a US magician that was in the UK. Could be. But they say please don't do the dove act. We're talking beginning of the century, and he says I can prove nothing happens, and then he goes and he does the trick where he kills the bird, but he does a bird change.
Yeah,
and he make them think is everything okay, and so they let him do the trick. So this has been happening for a long time ago.
I've heard that story.
Yeah, so I do believe animals should be treated right, and it's okay to question some things. But if the animal is okay, then it's okay.
Right. Well, speaking of rights, I wanted to also kind of talk about the Magicians Without Borders and moving into that, because there are certain rights that people have who are in prison, and one of them, I guess, is to be entertained. And you go in and provide that as well. And you were telling some great stories today, because after you were finished, it's kind of, okay, we got a little bit more time before we actually go through the rest of this tour and everything. And it really had some interesting things that you were talking about there, which is what prompted me really to want to chat with you a lot more about this. Now, Magicians Without Borders has been around for a while, and you must have gotten involved with this through someone else who had told you about this, I guess?
So the story goes long ago. I became a magician. I started performing in 2008, but all my life I've been very social work orientated since before I became a magician. And when I realized magic can make people... So there's something Tommy Wonder says. Tommy Wonder says there's this when magic happens, that little second when something disappears or where you get such a hit in your logical part of the brain that you forget everything's happening. You and that also includes a lot of your troubles. The thing is, there are people that have way more troubles, and I will tell you this. I work a lot in jails. I work in refugee camps. I work in orphanages. I work in hospitals around the world. But jails is something that I do a lot. And a couple of years ago, the psychologist of one of the jails, he told me, the first time I got to see you perform in the jail was the first time in my life that I saw these guys like they were not in jail. They
felt like they were out in the real world.
Yeah. Which was something I was not expecting to hear. But yeah, I think magic has a lot of incredible things. I teach magic to very poor kids in the slums of Costa Rica. Also, Carlos Lopez does it in Colombia. Mario Sierra does it in El Salvador. And some other friends does it in Brazil, India. And of course, Tom Berner, who is the founder. And Carlos Lopez is now the director of the NGO. But there's a lot of things. These kids are being told they cannot go to college. These kids are being told they cannot even finish high school.
They're going to stay in poverty forever.
Yeah, because the thing is, they are from very poor families, so they are gonna most likely need to go to work in their high school years. So they're gonna drop out high school.
Yeah,
and I think they've been told a lot of impossibilities through their childhood.
Yes,
when someone
you can't.
Yes, and then someone comes out and says, "Hey, I'm gonna make this thing disappear." And they say, no, that's impossible. And you do it. And you start breaking down their barriers, mental barriers. I think it's very powerful for them to see that impossible things are actually possible, especially for them. I do say in my shows, magic is the universal language, and I do believe that. But at some point, there is a little gap between kids in the slums. Because they grow up in the jungle law, we call in Spanish.
What's it called in Spanish?
La ley de la jungla, the law of the jungle.
Right.
Is that the same? Is the same?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah. So sometimes these kids they think you want to make them look like a fool, which I'm not. So a lot of times this is the one thing I think will be a little different in social context, magic related, because I do the same tricks I perform in the Magic Castle. I do them in a jail. I do them in a refugee camp. I do the same tricks. But with kids in the slum, sometimes you have to earn them, because they don't want to look like fools, and you have to they're like, no, you're cheating. No.
Some of them I imagine are gang kids also, and they don't want to be showing up.
Yeah. I 100%. So you have to win them. So you have to win them, and
Do you teach them tricks then?
No, because they want to learn them. And here's the thing: you gotta be the tough guy.
Yeah, okay.
Because that's their law, and you're in their place.
Yeah,
these are their rules. You're in their territory.
Yes.
So so sometimes you have to go and say, no, you're wrong. And then, but I will. So this happened with one of my students. of magic in Magicians Without Borders. I am now teaching in a very dangerous and poor area of Costa Rica. Every Monday, I do magic classes for them. The first class, I show up, and I'm gonna do some lapping. So I need that chair of the table, and I sit there. I stand out. I go and I write something on the board, and one kid shows up in the class, and he sits there. So I go and I say, hey, buddy, I need this chair. And he goes, no, this is my chair. So I go, I kind of need a chair because I'm going to do some things here. And he goes, well, you can look for a different chair. This is my chair. And in that moment, I realized I have to be tough.
Pick your battles.
Yeah. And say, no, I'm sorry. You have to move. Yeah. I'm the teacher. You're not.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be here, you can leave the class. But this is my chair.
Yeah.
And so he goes mad. He sits in the different chair, and then I start doing magic.
Yeah.
And then this kid's face starts changing. Yeah. End of the class, the kid is hugging me. Yeah. And he's now happy, and he's a great student. Yeah.
You could just see the transition.
Absolutely.
But you had to be hard, as I said, to begin with.
Yeah. And I also have to pretend I am not seeing the transition.
Uh-huh.
I also have to pretend. So I'm doing the magic. I'm seeing this kid's face changing.
Yes.
But I have to pretend I'm not. So I keep doing magic and magic. I'm throwing hard. And then he became a friend. And so.
What about the props and things? In other words, I assume that you're teaching cards and coins, sponge balls and things? Or
we actually have a lot of help with of friends. And if someone here want to help as well and want to ship something to Costa Rica for the kids, you can totally do it. You can also ship, if you ship it to Costa Rica, I will also send some things to Colombia and El Salvador and other places.
What is your email? How do they get in contact with you?
Well, I think one of the easiest way will be to go to magicianswithoutborders.org.
Okay.
That mail is probably going to be seen by Carlos, but I think that's the best thing because Carlos is the
you make sure it gets
the
to the right
guy
place.
for this. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you have people who are donating these kinds of things.
Yes,
as well.
and I also donate some things as well. I mean,
because I was thinking these kids can't afford things obviously at all. So you got to give them something.
Yeah, and they
probably really value what you're giving them. I mean, 100%. Not just the lesson, but also, wow, no one's ever given me something.
100%, and especially when I tell them, hey, this came from a place called Morphe's Magic, and they say, "Well, what's that?" Or this come from a place called Vanishing Ink.
Yeah.
And they, well, really? And
well, they don't have access, obviously, to the internet, probably because they don't have a computer or anything.
Well,
like that, except maybe in school. But
internet is weird. And normally they have one cell phone in the house, so just one phone for the entire house. Mm-hmm. So they have to share it with their brothers, sisters, father.
Which means if internet time is on that cell phone,
limited.
basically.
Yeah, very, very limited.
Huh.
As the years pass by, it's get more normal. Okay. But yes, it's still a weird thing. So during the pandemic, it was crazy because we couldn't do classes because I said, hey, can you download Zoom? Yeah, we don't have space for that.
Wow.
Yeah, the cell phone is busy that hour.
My sister's got that or something.
Yeah, we do live in a moment where we feel internet is very out there, and it's not. It's not out there.
We live in a different world here in the U.S. and a lot of other countries.
But I will tell you something. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's places in the U.S. that are the same because in Costa Rica, people doesn't know this happened 20 minutes away from their house. Mm-hmm. I mean, in Costa Rica, everyone has internet. Mm-hmm. Ish. People think that. Yeah. A lot of my friends doesn't even know this thing I'm saying. Mm-hmm. A lot of my friends will tell me, yeah, just do it on Zoom. Just do it. And they don't realize 30 minutes away from their home, there's kids that doesn't have this.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's kids that doesn't have electricity in home.
Right.
Yeah. Or water.
Yes.
Which is something very basic.
Yeah. Or running water or plumbing. So they have to go outside as far as a bathroom or whatever.
Or a river.
Wow.
Or there's houses that they share. They connect electricity to one of the town's city. Mm-hmm. So all of there's like 20 houses running electricity with that. So
these long wires going to their houses.
Yeah. Huh. So we use a lot of things that they can use in home, like cards, paper, rubber bands. But I think mostly cards. And for stage, we teach them how to do the coloring book, turn restore paper.
Do they have like an end of the class or into the session or season, I guess, so whatever type of curriculum you have that they do a show together? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, this new group I'm teaching now, they just had their first show, and I thought that
Is it for the public or is it for each other?
for a public.
Their family? Okay.
It was not for the family. Some people of the NGO came to see the show, and this was very nice actually, because one of the kids didn't want to do the show. He was stressed as he was about to perform in Las Vegas. But we were in a tiny little class in a slum of Costa Rica, and there were like 4 or 5 people in the audience.
Yeah.
But this kid was super stressed, and he's like, "No, teacher, I'm not doing it. No, I'm not doing it." And I went, "Hey, you have to do it." So
Everyone else is, all your friends. Yeah.
yeah.
You've been studying.
He went to do it, and after that, he was so excited, just as he have performed in Las Vegas.
That is great.
He was, wow, this is the
great
greatest day
story.
of my life.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I did it. He was in hype.
Yeah.
And
And you had really
great.
kind of pushed him into doing that too.
Yeah, well,
That has to make you feel good.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, very much. I do believe that's one of the true powers of magic, because there's one cool thing on magic in these fields, and is if you go to one of these poor areas and you teach them one trick, then these few kids, they know something nobody else knows,
Right.
and they feel special.
Sure, and they are.
They think, wow, I know something that the president of Costa Rica doesn't know. Hey, actually something that the president of the U.S. doesn't know.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so they feel very special. It empowers them heavily.
That's amazing. Now, what about in prisons? Because that's a different mindset. You had said something earlier today after your show when we were having
About
that
hope?
Discussion about hope. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I do remember we were talking about it in the show. So yeah, what I said is that I don't know how we get there, but so prisons are one of my favorite places to perform, and the reason that is because it's the only place I've been yet that I haven't feel any hope. So if I go to a hospital, I've been in hospitals in India, Colombia, Costa Rica, El Salvador, and there's always hope. There's always hope.
That they're going to get better.
Yeah.
And get out of the hospital.
Yes.
Right.
So there is a lot of emotions. There's kids crying. I have many stories in hospitals. I just performing in the one cancer hospital in India. It was crazy. You have to walk on, trying to not to step on people.
Wow. No kidding. On the floor, just everywhere?
Yeah, everywhere. There's one hospital
Only one
in
hospital?
Yeah, for 1 billion people, 1.4 billion people.
Yeah.
So these people have been on a train for 28 hours.
I think I've just recently heard that India is about to surpass China.
Already did.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, already did. So these people are coming on trains 26 hours, 32 hours.
To the hospital. The hospital.
Yeah, to the hospital to see if they can get medical attention. So yeah, I was walking, trying not to step on people.
Gee.
So yes, of course you get to see hard things, but there's always a little hope. But jails are different. Jails is like someone went there and turned off the hope button, the happiness button. What I always say is when I go to perform in, let's say, a company or a hospital or I don't know, there's always certain level of happiness. And you can take that and go it and bring it and raise it.
Yeah.
But in a jail, there's none. It's like zero.
Wow.
So when you start performing, you really feel the energy. You really feel how things starts changing. It's very weird.
Because it starts from ground zero to begin with.
And you kind of
Feel that swell.
Yeah, and you get super high the energy, and you get see these guys, super tough guys, crying and laughing hard, and they. This is something I've only been told in a jail. This is about to say, and several times actually. So. I'm a comedy magician, so sometimes after the show, someone will come and say, "Hey, I haven't been laughing like this in years." And in jails, people tell me, I haven't been. I'm trying to translate this. It's basically something like I couldn't even remember laughing. Something like that, which is weird because laughing is one of the first things we do as babies.
Correct.
Even blind babies knows how to laugh.
Yeah. But they say, I can't even remember the last time I laughed.
Kind of. So that's something that I think is special in these places. There's this story that Tom Berner, the founder of Magicians Without Borders, told me once. And he said he has this beautiful practice. He carries some pictures of places he performed. So he told me, choose a picture. And I said, this one. I said, I'll tell you a story of this picture. And he told me he was performing in, I think Iran could be, in a refugee camp. Refugee camps are very hard because there's people that are born and they die there. It's a different world. Absolutely. Refugee camps are a different thing. And Mike told me, and Tom Werner told me this story. Tom said he went to perform in a refugee camp, I think in Iran. And he did a show for 500 boys and then 500 girls. And after the show, a guy came with a cup of tea. And he said, hey, thank you. Because in, I don't know, 45 years I've been living here, I feel like we're treated not like humans. We get feed because we need to eat. Yeah. We get medical attention if we need it. But you're the first person that come here to feed our soul.
To feed our soul, wow. And treat us like a human being.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we live in a part of the world where we don't realize how important entertainment is.
Right.
We don't realize because we have it right there. But when you take that away from someone, you realize how powerful it is. And right now, there's this wave on magic. There's this way of thinking in magic that I've seen a lot now of people that they want to change people's lives with magic, and they say, "Oh, I'm done to magic. I want to, like very, very, like if giving happiness was not enough." And I gotta say, if you think that, you don't understand happiness. Happiness is more than enough. If you give someone a second of happiness, that's a lot because you don't know this person's life.
That's right.
And this is something I tell myself every single time I'm performing. I actually said it before your show, and I say to myself, I don't know these people. I don't know how their week has been. I don't know how their year has been. But I have these minutes, this hour,
moment in time
to give them happiness. I'll do my best. I'll do my best because I don't know the background, and we're all carrying something. So yeah, jails have that. I'm gonna be performing in Ukraine in September in some hospitals in Ukraine.
That's gonna be so different over there.
It's gonna be so different, and
it's a war-torn country. You've probably not been in a war-torn country before.
I was in a war. I was in the south of Ethiopia, and there was conflict. There was conflict, but there was not war.
Okay.
So I was a little scared because someone said I had to take this 8-hour bus, and apparently the militia, what they did, which is crazy, the militia took the buses of their own people. They burned the bus. They killed the people just to make the army come and they could fight. So
my gosh.
Yeah, so they even killed their own people
to instigate a war.
Yes, to instigate the fight with the army, and I was in one of those buses. So I was 8 hours not sleeping, thinking, I hope this is not the bus.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So I got that experience, but yeah, 100% not a war like the Ukraine war. I'm gonna be way far away from the conflict. I don't. This is the other thing, and I think this is important. You don't want to do this because you want to have because you want to be the protagonist. You don't want to do that.
Okay.
I mean, I couldn't care less being protagonist of anything. And I actually told the people in Ukraine, Carlos, who was there, Carlos from Magicians Without Borders just was there in Ukraine. Yeah. And I told Carlos, I asked Carlos, I could say, Carlos, if you think I'm gonna be useless, I'd rather not go. I don't care about the picture. I don't care about. I care about helping. If I'm more helpful in the refugee camps in Poland, if I'm more
send me there.
Yeah. And the other thing is, you have to. But I think this has helped me a lot without intention. These shows are hard shows. If you pull out a show in a jail, you can pull out a show anywhere. Doesn't matter where. These are tough shows.
Do they also, when you go into jail, do they tell you what? I mean, do you have to run the script by the warden or somebody? Or
not the script. I cannot bring knives.
Yeah, talk about that, about the cards. I know they have playing cards.
They don't have playing cards.
You count them when you go in and out.
Yeah, they count the cards when I go in. They count the card when I go out. Now sometimes they don't because now they know me, the police guys. But yeah, you have to. And I will tell something in a magic podcast that I don't tell anywhere else.
Okay.
But I always put my thumb tip in my thumb. So they don't see it.
Yes.
I don't want to explain what that is. What that is. Yeah. So they don't check that good. It is invisible apparently.
Yes.
But yeah, so I cannot bring knives. I cannot bring scissors. I cannot bring all those kind of things. But one time when I didn't, when I was not aware of that, I did brought scissors. I was doing cut and restore rope, and the police guy said, all right, let's do it because this.
Oh, they let you carry it in
because I was in a well-behaved area.
Okay.
And nothing happened.
I assume they have a security with you on the stage or something. Somebody rushes
so,
you. Or,
okay, so
or can you have volunteers on stage? And
dependent on the area. On the area. I've performed in areas where I am in a let's imagine a little circle surrounded by bars.
Oh, bars. Okay.
Bars.
Yeah.
And then a little space. Then bars and then the people.
Okay.
So it's tough because there's people all on top of the other trying to see what you're doing, and you cannot bring someone to help, which is hard because I am a very parlor. I do talk a lot. I do need help from people.
Sure.
So those shows are very hard. But I've done shows in gyms, and people can come and we say hi and we shake hands and we talk. I have eat with them. Actually, one time this was very nice. They were doing a cooking class. They were doing a cooking class, and they invite me for their final test, so I can try the dishes. Okay. So I just at that time I just went there to eat.
Yeah.
Hey Diego, we cook this. Yeah.
Do you sometimes get material? In other words, they tell you a joke or say something to you that you might use later in the show?
Not particularly, but one time I do a skate act, and one time a guy that tied me up told me, "You gotta be good because I know how to tie people up. I really know how to do it." And you escape, and I just thought, well, thank you for the information. I must be good. I don't know what to do with this information, but thank you for sharing that you know how to tie people up. I hope you're not here for that.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing, this is the other thing, you get to know a lot of amazing people.
Right.
I have met doctors that one time went out of a red light and killed someone.
Wow. Manslaughter, yeah.
I've met someone that one time, I don't know, didn't saw a sign on the street and they had a car accident, things like that. Yeah, so you also get to know a lot of very, very nice people.
Right. Well, what has been, of all those places that you've been, aside from in prisons, and you said you enjoy prisons, performing there the most, but other countries or groups that you have performed for that has been the most rewarding or something has been the most memorable?
My most memorable, maybe, is the moment that kept me in magic. And it was probably the moment I owe the most in life. So I was, as I told you, I think even before magic, I was very socially orientated. That's how my fathers taught me, and even I have a sister that works in Africa, in South Africa, in the ghettos of South Africa. She's the real deal. She's the one doing the real job. So we were teach like this when we were kids, and I remember being in 2011. Thinking, what can I do with magic? I'm just a magician. I don't know what can I do with this.
Right.
So I was kind of thinking on doing something else because I really think I don't know what I'll be doing in 10 years. I hope magic, but I really hope it's something that makes affects people in a good way. And I was not aware of what magic could do. And someone called me. There's a NGO from the National Children's Hospital in Costa Rica called Hospice Sonrisa, something like the Hospice Smile, something like that.
Okay.
And they called me because they have a program called The Dream. And that I thought was interesting because they have it in singular. We've been told dreams is free to dream. Yeah. Anyone can dream, and that's not true. That is not true. So they have this program for kids that they have to choose a dream, because they are in their last days. And there's this kid who wanted to see a circus.
Okay.
Yeah. this story always gets me emotional, but I don't care getting emotional. But this guy wanted to see a circus, and but he couldn't leave his house. At the moment, the Cirque du Soleil was coming to Costa Rica, but he couldn't leave his house. So they said, we need to bring a circus.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and I thought, well, there's normally not... Magicians are not normally in circus.
Circus people, right?
Yeah, but I'll go. So there was a juggler. It was me. What else was there?
Clown, maybe?
Yeah, clown who would do balloons, and doctors dressed as clowns.
Okay.
So we went to do a show there, and I really believe that was the show that kept me in magic because it changed my life forever. What I remember is coming to a little sorry, I'm remembering like a little living room, and there was the kid is laying in the couch, laying in the couch.
And he's in his final days, basically, you're saying.
He actually passed away 2 days after this.
Wow.
Yeah, and I saw him. I saw he was doing good. What I was not aware is that he was highly medicated for his party.
Yeah.
And the moment I recall is this, because he had tumors in his eyes, so he could barely see long distance.
Okay.
But magic has this powerful thing that magic is not for the eye. Magic is not for the eye.
It's in the mind.
Yeah, that's why Juan Varela does an entire show for blind people, and this is the moment that taught me that you could do sponge balls to blind people, which I now do when I get to perform for a blind person. And what I remember is giving this kid doing a little sponge ball trick, and the moment this kid opened his hand, there's several sponge balls. Sadly, I was, well, maybe not sadly, because this is the first time I was about to say what I'm about to say. I was about to say, sadly, I was not I was not as good in 2011, but I was as good as I could be at that time.
At that time, sure.
And the other thing is, you cannot, if you put the heart, you cannot fail. That's the thing.
I see.
Yeah,
sure.
that's, I mean... at least in these kind of things. So I remember this kid opening the hand, several balls pops up, and this kid starts laughing like he has nothing. Like he was like we were eating in a restaurant.
Yeah.
This kid started laughing, and I that's the moment I went, oh, wow.
Look at his expression, and
and that's the moment I realized I needed to do this more. And that was the moment that I realized. Sorry. What magic could do, yeah. What I just said, what magic could do. So that, and I will always say that if I had to choose one show to perform, probably wouldn't be the castle. Probably wouldn't be a lot of great things I've been having the opportunity to perform.
It'd be for people like that.
Probably will be that one. It probably will be that specific show. But yeah, that's the show that kept me in magic. And what happened after that was that I told to the people from the hospital, hey, I want to do this more. And I started doing it more, and I started going to jails. A couple of months later, a guy from Clowns Without Borders comes to my college. I was studying advertisement, and he tells me about Magicians Without Borders. I send a message to Tom Berner. He never replied. Years later, I find out he doesn't even check his Facebook.
Okay.
So years later, I met a guy that met a guy from Magicians Without Borders, and we made it happen. So I've been the director of Magicians Without Borders Costa Rica for the past probably 8 years. Yeah. Which is was a life dream, 100%. Yeah.
Well, I can see how emotional that makes you, and with that tears coming to your eyes there, and how that made you feel, and because you know what it did for somebody, and that's the thing, is you never know what magic's going to do. You mentioned about the dream having like singular, one dream. Well, we call that Make-A-Wish Foundation here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
same kind of
and
thing
it's
here.
one.
Yeah, you have one wish. Make a wish.
Yeah, make a wish. It's not choose your wishes,
because they're not going to have a lot more wishes than necessarily left.
I do have a nice story with this. One of those dreams I got to do was for a girl who was about to turn 14 years old. Yeah, but she wanted a 15-year quinceañera party.
Quinceañera, sure.
Yeah, so she was about to turn 14, not 15.
So she wanted to pick out a dress and do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because she was not going to make it to the 15 years old.
Okay.
So I went to perform because it was a princess party. And someone said, a princess party needs a magician. And I said, I'm the magician. I'm already there. Her name, Crystal. I went, I did the show, and because of my experience in the past was this kid from the south of Costa Rica who passed away 2 days after that.
Mm-hmm.
This is the other thing. You don't do questions. I mean, you're not there to. I mean, you're there just to serve you, and that's the reason those shows are hard. Normally, sound tech is not good.
Yes.
Normally, lighting is not good, and it's not it's not like going to a theater or a corporate setup where you can ask everything. That's the reason social shows and these kind of shows will give you a lot of experience. If you pull these shows off, you can pull anything.
Good point.
All of the others are easy. I mean, I cannot think in a hard show after a jail. I mean, those are the hard ones.
If you've done that, you can do anything.
100%.
I see what you're saying.
And and then this happened, which was very nice. Probably 6 years later, I got a call from that girl. She's still alive, and she wants to meet with me. And I went to her home, and we play. I think Wii. She had a Wii, and she's still alive till today.
That's great news.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's very sick.
Yes.
She's in a wheelchair.
But you helped her through a very difficult time, and she didn't think.
A lot of people did 100%. But that was a nice thing because for me it was like, what is she alive? What?
Yeah.
But I know when I go to a hospital, I know that some people that's going to be their last show.
Yeah.
So I better do it good.
Yeah, you better be good.
I better be good. Yeah, that was my thought.
Well, this has been amazing. I think it's very inspirational what you've been sharing here in the stories and everything, and about your path, about how that you've come to give what you have, and still at a young age. Are you 27, 8? What do you?
Thank you. No, I'm 31.
31. Okay. Yeah, you're a young man.
Been doing magic since I'm 17.
Yes, and so many more years ahead of you to spread joy and love to the rest of the world, and for people who really need it, and particularly those. Again, not just in other foreign countries, but even across the U.S. and places that are in need. So thank you.
I do encourage magicians to try to, I don't know, look for their local hospital, local orphanage. And this is a fair recommendation. Do not romanticize. I mean, because this is something that happens a lot. People normally romanticize this a lot. It's like, oh, I'm going to help. And when you get there, sometimes people doesn't want to see the show.
Right.
Sometimes, I mean, a kid with a chemo, a kid in chemo,
right.
I cannot blame him because he doesn't want to see anyone. So do not romanticize anything, and don't go for the picture.
Well, like whenever I've gone into some hospitals, there have been occasions in which the child is so medicated that he doesn't know what's going on, but you're doing it for the people in the room, like their parents, their brothers and sisters.
That's the other thing.
Because parents they need that little respite also.
Parents get forgotten a lot.
They do.
This is another recommendation, and this is something I've learned a lot. When a friend of mine called me a month ago. He told me, "Hey Diego, my father is always talking about your show, and he's about to pass away. I would love if you could perform for him." And my recommendation for these kind of things is, what I tell them is, okay, you tell this to your father. You tell, "Hey, remember my buddy Diego? He's putting up a new show, but he needs help. He needs people to see the show. Will you help him?" Because if you do it that way, they're helpful. Now they are doing something good.
Yes.
It's not because the worst thing you can do is perform for them because they are, with a disease in poor health. Yeah, that only reminds them that they are not in good health.
Right.
So what I do when I go to children's hospitals or something like that is I actually kind of don't perform for the kids. I perform for their parents, but I let the kids to see.
Yes.
I don't make them feel important because they're sick. They're just there. Everyone is the same important.
Yeah.
The nurse, the mom, the father, the kid, everyone. It's almost like I don't care you're sick. And it's okay for them to be treated normally. It's actually very good. So that's a piece of advice. If someone wants to talk more about this, I'm always happy to talk. My Instagram is Diego Vargas, V as in vowel, ARGAS. CR as Costa Rica, and I'll be always be happy to talk.
There you go. That's how to find it. Well, name my podcast is called The Magic Word. I'm always curious to find out what is it that's important to you. You've had so many things that are here. What is that makes you go? What's not just a word, but what is your phrase? What is it that is important
for me?
Mm-hmm.
I truly wake up thinking, making people happy.
Okay.
Yeah, and
just make people happy.
Yeah. See, since I don't know why. Since I'm a kid, I'm just like that, and I grew up and thinking that it's okay to be like that, and I don't care what people think. It does sound romantic. It sounds cliche, but I really don't care. It's how I think.
That's great. Diego, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to meet you, actually, and spend a little bit of time and to hear about your philosophy and everything and what you've been doing to make this world a happier place. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks to you. Thanks to you, and thanks to everyone that have been listening, sincerely.
So for the Magic Word Podcast, that was Diego Vargas. This is Scotty out. Well, thank you, Diego. I appreciate your comments here this week and your thoughts, and I hope that these inspirational words will perhaps mean something to somebody or bodies out there who will go and help this organization. I think it certainly is worthwhile what you're doing with the Magicians Without Borders. But I do want to correct one small thing, which really is fairly important, and that is that during this conversation, Diego had suggested that you go and visit magicianswithoutborders.org. Actually, it is magicianswithoutborders.com. So please go to magicianswithoutborders.com for more information and also to see how that you can connect with them and donate or do whatever that you wish. And perhaps they might be looking for some people also to help in different areas of the world. So I'm sure your help will be accepted however that you can. Well, listen, I appreciate your help and your support for the Magic Word. Thank you for coming back and listening each week. And as I mentioned, if you would like to have a little shout out and have me mention your name or perhaps to play back an audio of your thoughts on how much you like the Magic Word, please do. I'd be glad to share that with the rest of the group. We are really getting into the summer convention time then right now. I mentioned before that I will not be attending the IBM convention as originally planned, but I do plan at this point at least to attend the SAM convention in New Orleans, and then after that Abbott's and Magic Live and several other things that are coming up after that. You can go and take a look at the Magic Convention Guide to see what conventions are coming up, and I've got a little asterisk beside it. Those are the ones that I plan to attend at this point. Well, I appreciate everyone again listening, and I hope that you will please like and you would share and please subscribe. Many of you might be listening on and off and irregularly. I understand, because I feel sometimes as if that I'm trying to give everyone a drink of water from a fire hydrant with as much information that I've got coming on a regular basis. And so you probably are not able to keep up with everything, but if you subscribe, then you'll be notified whenever that there is a new episode that comes out and who it is. And perhaps that might be somebody that it interests you and you'd like to listen to. And also, if you subscribe to the pod letter, you'll get that weekly update. It's a newsletter I call a pod letter that will let you know again who's going to be on from week to week, and also some suggestion from the archives. But again, if you will please just like and share this on your social media, that helps us a lot. And as I mentioned in previous weeks, if you can give us some sort of 5-star comments on whatever platform you listen to, whether it's iTunes or whether it's on Google Play or wherever, I'm sure whatever platform you hear us on, there's some way in which you can show your love and let us know a little bit about why you listen and how much you like the podcast, and that helps us grow as well. So until next week, stay well, get booked, and remember, just be happy and spread happiness throughout the world. And if you can't make it throughout the world, spread happiness through your world. This is Scotty out.